What's up, everyone, and welcome to our spoiler-filled review of Justice League Dark Apokolips War. Now, Tim, I went to social media right after I watched this a few nights ago because this movie blew my mind. Not only did it blow my mind, you know what I think was so crazy about this movie? I don't think any of us expected it to be the movie it was. And we're going to get into spoilers here in a second. I certainly
did not.
But this movie came out of nowhere because this is the 15th installment in this this continuity, the DCAMU, the DC Animated Movie Universe, not the DCAU, two different things. So this is the 15th and final movie within this continuity. So I didn't expect it to go, the tone took me completely by surprise.
I'm the same. I mean, just when I saw that it was rated R, I was like, okay, this is going to be a little bit heavier, a little bit darker than what we're typically used to in the DCAU. You know, we've gotten a couple of R-rated films in the DCAU. I don't want to say that we didn't, but you know what I'm talking about. It was a little bit darker. I kind of started getting that vibe. But when I watched it, I was like, oh, this is not what I expected at all. Because you know, the other R-rated films that we got in the DCAU, like The Killing Joke or even Gotham by Gaslight, they were, you know, they had a very heavy feel to them. This felt more like a cross between a typical DCAU film that we're used to and, say, the new Harley Quinn series. It was like a cross between those two things, which I thought was a really interesting route to go with. For sure.
To me, I guess the best way to sum it up for me, I think it's like the end game, literally, of this universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it even starts off, again, this is spoilers galore, like it even starts off with the Justice League about to go to war with Darkseid, much like how the Avengers were going to go to war with Thanos. But you know, within the first 5 minutes, they go to war with him, but it goes terribly wrong. And then it flash forwards 2 years to Earth 2, where we're now in a post-apocalyptic world. It's insane. It took me...
Insane.
I didn't expect it to go that route at all. I'm like, this movie is such a down note, too. Like it ends. It ends on a down note, which I actually kind of liked, because I think it's a little predictable when you all the time you're like, obviously the heroes are going to win, but this time they won, but at a great cost. You know what I mean? And it was like, it was insane. I think that's just the violence in this movie, because they weren't killing.
Oh my God.
They weren't killing like B-listers, C-listers, D-listers. You're talking about ripping Aquaman in half, ripping off Wonder Woman's arm, Shazam's leg, like literally tearing apart Batgirl, Batwoman, putting magma on John Stewart Green Lantern. Just this, it was so insane and brutal.
Like that was, I think, the biggest thing for me. Was getting past that part. It was the same for you.
Right.
Was because it didn't waste any time either.
No.
I mean, right out of the gate, like Superman comes in hot, like right at the start, like he's smashing stuff in the Hall of Justice, and he's just like, you know, he's like yelling, "No, I'm not. There's nothing nice about what's about to go down. We're taking Darkseid out." Like they're trying to calm him down, and Superman, the Boy Scout in blue, is like not having it. He's like not having it at all. He's full on, no, I'm gonna take him out. So right from there, I was like, oh, this is a different, this is about to get real. But then all of a sudden you see that Darkseid is literally watching everything they're saying through Cyborg. And so he's completely ready for them. And like you just said, they just get torn to shreds. I mean, almost within the first 15 minutes, we're watching Nightwing get just literally skewered like a kebab. I mean, it was crazy.
That's the amount of A-listers they just killed, but not only just killed, like brutally killed. You know, it's not like, oh, we're gonna break your neck. Obviously, breaking your neck is brutal, but we're talking about like ripping off limbs, like impaling people and ripping out organs. It was
and like you said, you watched them tear major characters just ripped right in half, like it was nothing, and they just moved on like nothing just happened. We saw that on multiple occasions. Manta also got ripped right in half, like at one point in the film. I mean, it was crazy to watch. I was just like, but it was the speed at which they were going through it.
Right, they were going through. Well, that's the cool thing too. I loved how this basically took every single character that was introduced within this DCAMU universe and brought them all together. Like at the very beginning, you know, you get that assemble shot, so to speak, where you got the Titans, you got Justice League Dark, you know, you got the Justice League, the Suicide Squad, and it was just so cool to see that all. Again, it was like the end game of this universe where you kind of see it all come a full circle, and then just it ramp up and never really let down, like at all. I mean, even to the end, like even when they killed Damian, oh my gosh, at the end, they ended up bringing him back, obviously, but that was just the way they did everything too. I think it's one of those things, if you've been following these movies since the beginning, which kicked off, I believe, in 2013 with Justice League, or rather Flashpoint Paradox, then going into Justice League War. And if you've been following these movies since then, 2014, it's now 2020, you know, you were attached to these characters. And a lot of people actually grew up with these characters because, you know, that's over the course of 7 years. That's a long time to be within a continuity, getting multiple movies a year. So it was just so shocking too how, you know, because there was really no sign of this, was the crazy thing. Because prior to the prior movies that, you know, it ended, we're like, oh, obviously they're setting up Darkseid. But, you know, they fought Darkseid in Justice League War, and it was just a normal superhero thing. Not like, this was full on like Injustice. I think that's what I gotta say here.
Very much so.
This was like a mixture of Injustice with the Justice League Darkseid War comic book. It was kind of like that, because you even had Batman in the Mobius chair, which was really dope to see in animation, because that was awesome in the comic book storyline by Jeff Johns. There was just so many fun, and you know, we're both big Etrigan fans. Etrigan was amazing in this film. He was, I loved how much he didn't care about anything, and he's just like, ugh, assassins, and you know, he's fighting like the assassins that Damian is sending out and stuff. So good. And even how he liked Damian, because how much Damian hated Constantine. He's like, I like this kid. Yeah. I really like this kid.
Yeah, but when Etrigan dies in the film, you know, Wonder Woman, who's, you know, been basically brainwashed and taken over by Darkseid, and she's a soldier for Darkseid, they fight back and forth, and he's thrilled because it's the first challenge he's had in a while.
Yeah, he's like, finally a challenge.
She winds up killing it. Yeah, finally a challenge. And she winds up killing him. And just running him through with her sword. And I don't know how you felt about it, but I loved the way he died.
Yes, for sure.
Where he was just like, I've run the course.
He went out in glory, you know, like, so to speak.
Yeah, he was just like, yes, I'm good.
Oh, the bit.
I did.
The bit, sorry, but the bit, I don't want to forget, where Constantine, like, yeah, he's so depressed, he doesn't even rhyme anymore. I was dying.
And Ray Chase, man, he just did such a great job voicing him too.
Yes,
it was just, Etrigan was one of the highlights of the entire thing for me. I really love. Again, there's probably a little bias there because I'm already a huge Etrigan fan like you.
As am I. Yeah.
So yeah, you know, there's a little bit of bias there. But the other thing that I was a little bit, I mean, not because it's Justice League Dark, Apokolips War, so it wasn't shocking in that way. But I guess for the last film in this continuity, it was a little bit surprising that John Constantine was kind of the central focus.
I was going to bring that up, yeah.
Yeah, he really became the central focus of the entire film. And he was really the one who he pushed the story forward the entire time. And in the end, he was the one who kind of made a lot of what happens possible.
100%.
You know, all the way up until the end, where we see him as the one who goes to Flash and tells him, you know what you got to do, mate.
I couldn't agree with you more. Again, I was actually going to bring that up as well. He is the heart and soul of this film, which was really surprising. You know what I mean? Like, I like John Constantine. He's not like one of my favorite characters by any means, but I do really enjoy the character. And this actually made me like him a lot more. I did like how he was the heart and soul. It really showed how powerful the dude is, you know, being well-versed in the mystic arts and all that stuff. And I just liked his entire arc, even to the point where we find out at the very end, because earlier in the film, through flashbacks, we find out that John Constantine didn't save his girlfriend Zatanna. He just left and ran. And he even says in the film, he's like, I've never done that in my life. I don't know why, I've done that. And then at the end, we find out because Batman had talked to Zatanna prior and was like, yo, look, you need to do a spell to make him run because he's going to be our only hope if this goes south. And that's exactly what happened. It kind of spoke to both of them, where John Constantine was as powerful, the only one really as powerful enough to fix this, but also that Batman always always has a plan, even
unbelievable.
Always has a plan no matter what. So I really like that whole aspect. John, if you're a John Constantine fan, like if he's one of your favorite characters or is your favorite character, you're gonna love this movie that much more, because this definitely highlights him and shows why he is such a cool character.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. If you're a big John Constantine fan, this is definitely your movie. And what you said before is what I was going to mention, the same thing about how good of a job this movie did of highlighting who John Constantine is as a character and his true power set in a way that we had never really seen, I don't think, whether that's live action or in the animated universe. So I thought that was really great. But yeah, of course, leave it to Batman to always have a plan, dude, but like thinking years ahead.
For sure. He's like
it was fantastic.
It's like Batman is the ultimate puppet master of the DC universe. Like he's just always pulling strings and setting things up. But let's talk about like, the future and end of this movie, because that was like one of the biggest things, how it ended on a down note. So this franchise basically started 1 year after the birth of the New 52 in the comics, right? The first movie we got in 2013. And as we know, the New 52 started around 2011, 2012. So this started right after that. And it was kind of basically the stories and stuff it was adapting was loosely off the New 52, even down to the character designs, right? So they ended it, as you said, John Constantine talks to the Flash. He's like, look, man, you know, we want it all, but this is a bad world and we gotta, we still have a big battle, ahead of us. So the easiest thing would just be to do another Flashpoint, reset everything, because that's definitely going to be better than whatever we got now. So Flash goes off and he runs, and then it goes to credits, right? But me, obviously being the big comic guy, I'm like, so if they started with the New 52, right around the New 52, are they wrapping it up 15 films in to now set up for DC Rebirth within this continuity? Do you know what I mean? So, because this is the last film, this isn't the last, animated film they're going to do. This is the last animated film they're going to do in this continuity. So does that mean they're starting a new Rebirth continuity and now going to mirror the current comics we're getting, just like they did, when this all started back in 2013? I feel like that's what they're going to do. That's
what I took away from it.
Okay.
Because otherwise you kind of, it leaves you feeling like everything you just watched was irrelevant in a way.
Right.
Right? So that was my one thing that I took away from the end, where Flash takes off and everything kind of goes to white, and you see that he's, erased the current history. So you get to that point, and that was exactly what I walked away with. I said, okay, this is clearly a pivot point towards something like Rebirth.
Right.
Otherwise, you make everything that we just watched totally irrelevant. It was fun, but it was pointless at the same time.
Yep.
So, that it has to be that. It's essentially what they did with Rebirth, in the comics. Yeah. It's essentially the exact same thing. So, it has to be that. And man, that is a really exciting thing if that's the direction that they are going with it. I just hope that they stick to that and they do Rebirth instead of shifting gears and doing something different. Because to bring DC Rebirth to life in the animated universe, I think would just, for fans, that would be huge.
For sure. I'm very excited for the future of this. Again, as far as, it lasted 15 films. And I've said it before, I think it was, overall, I thought it was really solid. There were some films with, over the years, I was like, but overall, especially with the way they ended it, I think, as a universe they built, I think overall it was very, very good. Obviously, the Bruce Timm verse of the DC animated universe will always be my number one, but this was a solid follow-up, so to speak, as far as an animated DC universe, and I'm very excited for the future and what they're going to do going forward.
Agree, especially coming off the Reign of Superman movies.
Those were great.
They did a great job with that. So, they really, it's interesting. We've talked about this again many times in the past, but it's still interesting to me how DC seems to thrive in the animated side.
Yeah.
And Marvel just seems to thrive on the live action side. It's that polar opposites. That's not to say DC's not going to catch up on the live action side. It's just to this point, we've seen that, DC has really done some really great work on the animation side. And they've really put a lot of attention to detail and effort and heart into their animated series and their television shows. And it really shows. There's a reason why the fans have latched on to the animated side for DC for so long. So good. They stick to their roots too, it seems like, with their animated characters. They're very true
to the heart and soul of these characters, and even the current comics that are coming out. Like, again, so much so that these films over the last few years were mirroring the comics that were being published by DC Comics. So I think that is a brilliant idea, because it's an easy way. Like, if you're watching the movies first and you could jump into the comics, you could just make that turn and be like, oh, this is pretty similar to the movies, and then vice versa. So either you're going from comics to movies or movies to comics. It's a nice way to, you know, jump from one to the other and then eventually watch and read both.
Now, real quickly, before we start to wrap things up,
right,
I wanted to ask you, what were your favorite part of the film? What were your favorite elements of the film, and what were did you have anything that you didn't like?
There wasn't too much I didn't like. You know, I really enjoyed this film. I think overall, I mean, I would probably give it a 9 out of 10. Like, because another thing for me personally, obviously I knew this movie was coming out and I wanted to see it, but I watched like one trailer, and I don't think that trailer gave away the tone or direction that this movie was going. Like, this literally caught me completely off guard. Like, I had no like idea what I was getting myself into, and I think that made me enjoy it that much more, which is why if I was to do scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, I would probably give this a 9 out of 10. So I don't think, again, there was much I didn't like, at least nothing that comes to mind, meaning if there was probably insignificant, maybe like little voice actors here and there. Things I did like, I liked the portrayal of Superman, though very different. This isn't the Boy Scout classic Superman we all know and love. This was more so the Injustice Superman, kind of where he's like, yeah, no, we're going to get things done by any means necessary. We're killing people to stop it. We're not going to, you know, put people in prison or the Phantom Zone. The only way to stop this threat is to kill Darkseid. And I liked seeing that side of Superman, because he is, you know, like the most powerful superhero in the DC universe and arguably all of comics. So it's fun to see him go all out. And then towards the end, where he's battling Darkseid and literally grabbing him by the head and tossing him side to side like, you know, he's a Looney Tune character.
Yes.
I was like, yes. And then even just, I like the shock factor of it. Like, you know, going in the first 20 minutes or even towards the end of the film, like, I'm like, they keep killing these people. Like, again, these are A-listers. Like, it is insane. But my favorite part, though, I think, is the heart and soul of this film is Constantine. I think he, you know, the way they interweaved him with the entire DC universe and showed how important he is to this universe. I enjoyed that a lot. Again, I'm not even like, you know, the biggest Constantine fan. I like him, but this movie made me like him a lot more than I did already.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm pretty much with you across the board. The only thing that I would say, I don't know that I would rate it quite as high as you, but I'm a little bit more picky than you are. But I think that this movie was, just like you said, it really shocked me. It took me off guard. I was not ready for what I watched.
Right.
But also, it was the pacing of it that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
It launched you right out of the gate, and it really never let up. And it was just, there was so many elements of it that left you feeling like, man, I've never seen this version of this character in the animated universe before, like with Superman. While he wasn't as ruthless as the Injustice Superman, he had that element of, you know, I'm going to do what I need to do.
For sure.
And nobody's going to tell me otherwise. One of my favorite parts, actually, in the entire film is when he becomes possessed by Trigon.
Yeah, towards the end, yep.
Yeah, and he just goes nuts, and he sticks his thumbs in Darkseid's eyes. Darkseid goes to hit him with his Omega beams, and he just sticks his thumbs in his eyes and just starts flipping him around and pounding him into the ground.
It's so
violent.
It
was just so BA. It was crazy. So stuff like that was just really fun. And I think the things that I didn't like on it, there was a couple of animation moments that that looked kind of wonky for me. But that, you know, again, that's a nitpick. And then, you know, there was some vocal performances that, you know, were kind of a little bit off for me at points, but you know, it's minor stuff. You have to get really nitpicky. I think as far as the DC universe goes, I think this is one of the better films that they've ever made. For
sure. I definitely think this is going to become a cult classic, so to speak, because it's just so brutal and, you know, a good way to wrap this up, especially in a different way, on a down note, where it's not too much of a positive ending, if positive is at all, because it's basically like things are so crappy, we got to reset everything. Right. So I don't know how much you want to say that's positive. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the future. And something real quick, nothing to do with this, but still Warner Brothers, as far as a suggestion, I will also say, if you like violence and cool action scenes watch the Mortal Kombat movie, Scorpion's Revenge. I just watched that recently, and that movie, if you can believe it, is like twice the amount of brutal and violent that Justice League Dark Apokolips War was.
That's not surprising at all.
Dude, it was, I said it on Instagram. It's the most violent animated movie I've ever seen, like by far.
Well, if you've played the recent Mortal Kombat game, you know, it's kind of like, well, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's exactly like, but I just, you know, I just didn't think they would adapt it like that true to the game, like as far as like fatalities and doing zoom ins to where you see the, like they do x-ray scans like in the game where you see the organs actually explode and spleens get ripped out.
That's hilarious.
So cool. But anyway, Justice League Dark Apokolips War, it was awesome. If you guys haven't seen it and you just watched this anyway, well, most of it's spoiled for you, but still watch it because we left out a lot of cool stuff and probably forgot a lot of cool scenes because there was so much to like take in with this movie. I gotta watch it again because again, there were so many deaths and twists and turns that you know, I'm sure I'm forgetting some stuff here and there.
At the bare minimum, it's worth watching just to see Superman and Raven and, you know, Batman in a Morbius chair.
Yeah.
But some of these major characters really turn loose. And show their power and you know, just to have to take Darkseid down. It's worth watching just from that standpoint alone.
For sure, for sure. But I guess that wraps up our thoughts. You got any more to say?
No, man. I think that we pretty much covered everything. It was a great movie, and you know, we definitely recommend it.
100%. I couldn't agree more. So with that said, we'll see you guys next time when we talk about all things comics.